Let's take a fun and slightly creepy journey back in time. Imagine living in ancient times, long before science explained things like sneezing, getting sick, or even just having a bad day. People back then didn't have TikTok, Google, or WebMD to explain stuff. Nope. Instead, if something weird happened to you, people might think you were possessed. Yes, demons, spirits, or even angry gods were the go-to explanations for anything people didn't understand. In fact, you'd be amazed, and maybe a little amused, at the things that could get you labeled as possessed in ancient times. Here are 6 ridiculous reasons why someone would think you were harboring an evil spirit, along with a few laughs about how absurd it all sounds today. Sneezing, a demon's trying to escape. Ancient Rome circa 1st century. Okay, imagine this. You're in ancient Rome, just hanging out with your friends, eating grapes, because that's what we think they did, right? Suddenly, you sneeze, a big, loud, dramatic sneeze that echoes in the room. Today, someone might say, "Bless you," but back then, that sneeze would have been seen as so much more dramatic. In fact, some folks thought that when you sneezed, it was because a demon was trying to leave your body. Yep, your nose was a supernatural exit door. The belief was that your body was pushing out something evil, and that's why people still say "bless you." It wasn't just polite, it was to protect you from demons sneaking back in while your nose was still open for business. If you sneezed a lot, well, that just meant you had a whole bunch of little demons crammed in there. And people might want to stay far, far away. Can you imagine being chased by your entire town because of a simple allergy? He sneezed 3 times in a row. Grab the holy water. And if you had a sneeze that didn't stop, like those days when you sneezed 6 times in a row, forget it. You'd probably have people throwing garlic at you or calling the village priest. Back then, a sneeze wasn't just an irritation. It was a full-blown demon eviction process. Talking to yourself. The spirits are speaking through you. Ancient Greece circa 500 BC. Picture this. You're walking through the marketplace in ancient Greece, minding your own business. Maybe you're thinking out loud about what to buy for dinner, and suddenly someone hears you talking to yourself. You know what they're thinking? This person is possessed by spirits. Back in the day, the Greeks believed that if someone spoke out loud when no one was around, it meant that a god or a spirit was speaking through them. If you mumbled or muttered to yourself, they didn't think you were just working through a problem in your head. Nope, they thought some spirit had taken over your vocal cords and was using you as a mouthpiece. Basically, you were like an ancient walkie-talkie for the supernatural. Now, we all know that sometimes you just need to vent or remind yourself to pick up some olive oil, but if you were in ancient Greece, people might have thought you were delivering a divine message from beyond the grave. Imagine being interrupted mid-grocery list by a crowd gathering around, asking you what the gods are saying today. And if you had a habit of talking to yourself often, it would get even more awkward. People might start following you around, hanging on every word, hoping for a prophecy or a message from Zeus. You'd have quite the fan club, or maybe just a bunch of confused onlookers. Dancing weirdly. It's the dance of the damned. Middle Ages, circa 14th century. We've all busted out a funky dance move or two when we're feeling the beat, but in the Middle Ages, dancing wasn't just a fun way to embarrass yourself at weddings. Oh no, if you started dancing in a way that seemed too wild or out of control, people might have thought you were possessed. There was something called the dancing plague, where people, often whole groups, would dance uncontrollably for hours, even days. Nowadays, we'd probably blame it on some bad mushrooms, but back then, they thought these people were being controlled by evil spirits. If your moves were a little too funky, they'd think Satan himself was showing off his dance skills through you. Just imagine you're at a medieval party, trying to impress everyone with your sick dance moves. Suddenly the crowd gasps. Someone yells, "She's possessed!" And instead of applause, you're doused with holy water and dragged to the nearest priest. All that because your dance routine was ahead of its time. Even worse, if you managed to inspire a whole group of people to join in, you'd be at the center of what they called mass hysteria, where everyone would start dancing like crazy. Congrats! You're now the leader of a possessed dance squad. The medieval villagers didn't know how to handle those spontaneous dance parties, so they just assumed the devil was DJing. Having epileptic seizures. Definitely demon activity. Ancient Mesopotamia, circa 2000 BC. Here's a more serious one, but still fascinating in how misunderstood things were. If you lived in ancient Mesopotamia and had an epileptic seizure, the explanation was simple. Demons. People back then had no idea what epilepsy was. They didn't know anything about the brain or how it works. So when someone had a seizure, they thought it was because an evil spirit was taking over their body. The sudden shaking, the loss of control, it all looked pretty scary. And for them, the easiest explanation was that a demon was inside you, making you thrash around. In fact, they had a whole name for it, the the falling disease, and it was linked to being possessed by a particular kind of demon. So if you lived in Mesopotamia and had epilepsy, you'd likely find yourself being dragged to the nearest shaman for a ritual or a not-so-pleasant exorcism. In some cases, they even thought specific types of demons caused different illnesses. So if your seizure happened under the wrong moon, or in front of the wrong person, you could find yourself with a reputation as the local demon's favorite puppet. At least you got a cool nickname, right? Strange dreams. The spirits are visiting you. Ancient Egypt circa 3000 BC. Ah, dreams. We all have them, some more bizarre than others. In modern times, you might wake up from a dream where you're falling off a cliff or being chased by a giant chicken and think, well, that was weird. But if you're living in ancient Egypt and you had a strange dream, your friends and family might sit you down for a serious talk about your spiritual health. The Egyptians believed that dreams were a window to the supernatural world, and if you had a particularly strange or vivid dream, it meant that a spirit, usually a not-so-friendly one, was trying to communicate with you, or worse, possess you. They even had special dream interpreters, who would tell you if you were in danger of being taken over by an evil force based on your latest dream. Imagine waking up from a bizarre dream, where you're flying on a giant sphinx, and then having to explain to your neighbors that you're not possessed. No, I swear, it was just the cheese I ate before bed. And if you happen to tell the wrong dream to the wrong person, well, they might start to avoid you. Nobody wants to hang out with the person who's chatting with spirits during their REM cycle. Your social life could take a real hit all because of that one dream where you turned into a talking ibis. Unexplained illness. An evil spirit is making you sick. Ancient China circa 1600 BC. Getting sick in ancient times was already bad news. Medicine was rudimentary, and doctors weren't exactly prescribing antibiotics. But in ancient China, if you got sick and no one could figure out why, they didn't just think you were unlucky. Nope, you were definitely possessed by an evil spirit. They believed that illnesses, especially ones that seemed to come out of nowhere, were caused by angry spirits invading your body. If your fever wouldn't break, or your cough wouldn't go away, it wasn't just a common cold. It was a spirit wreaking havoc on your insides. This led to all sorts of creative cures, like burning incense, waving charms, and, of course, exorcisms to chase the spirit away. Imagine lying in bed trying to sleep off a fever, when suddenly a bunch of people burst in, waving incense and yelling at the spirit to get out. Not exactly the restful healing vibe you were hoping for. Conclusion. So, there you have it. 6 hilarious and bizarre reasons why people in ancient times might have thought you were possessed. Whether you sneezed, danced, or had a weird dream. Life back then was filled with supernatural explanations for everyday events. Thankfully, we've come a long way since then, with science offering us more reasonable answers. But it's fun to imagine how our modern quirks might have been seen as spooky back in the day. Next time you sneeze or talk to yourself, just be grateful no one's chasing you with holy water.